Hi, this is Professor Marsh, and I am correcting the third video in Chapter 1 for the technical um, sound quality, and hopefully this will go a lot better. Uh, this is beginning in about the middle of Chapter 1 and starting with the topic on why ethical responsibilities go beyond legal compliance. So if you can remember back to that, hopefully this will be a helpful review. Uh, Everyone agrees that ethical responsibilities in business, at a minimum, require compliance with the law. And I'm a lawyer and I'm familiar with what the law is, but sometimes our ethical responsibilities in business are going to require a higher degree of care and participation than merely what is required to avoid breaking the law. Um, there's a disagreement about that between various theorists in this area. And so the book presents both sides of this. Even businesses that are rated as highly ethical can face the fury of self proclaimed ethical guardians coming from all sorts of interest groups. Walmart provides high quality at low prices, but comes under fire from unions and local merchants. Chick-fil-A practices Christian values as part of its corporate mission, but faces boycotts and protests from LGBT activists and animal cruelty opponents. Amazon has revolutionized distribution worldwide, but is attacked for monopolization and tax avoidance. And attention to ethical issues and developing policies and strategies to respond to even unfair criticism is necessary in today's business world. At its worst, fuzzy legal standards are often applied in a seemingly arbitrary manner. It may no longer be sustainable to simply be ethical. You may need to demonstrate it consistently and assertively. That's why one coffee sleeve can have prominent virtue signaling about safety, sustainability, fairness to suppliers in developing countries, and protection of the environment. And there's an industry that has developed in this area to rate businesses according to their perception of their ethics. Uh, uh, that's something that might be a potential career. Uh, Responses to ethical lapses often include changes in the law. After Enron, we got Sarbanes-Oxley. After Wells Fargo, we got the CFPB. If you go back to the 1970s and Watergate, we got the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and campaign finance reform. There are many, many other examples of this. But legal compliance alone is insufficient for a number of reasons, and the book points this out. The law itself may be immoral in certain societies. If you look at Nazi Germany, if you look at South Africa, their laws were immoral, and so legal compliance, was insufficient. As Huck Finn said famously in that novel, well, I guess I'll just go to hell. Um, in an unjust society, maybe that's the correct ethical choice. Society may value individual freedom to the point of risk of low legal standards. And businesses that don't require higher standards invite more social and political regulation. If you can't clean up your own mess, we'll do it for you. The law can't do a good job of predicting the next scandal. It's always playing catch up. I belong to two heavily regulated professions, law and accounting, and keeping high professional standards is an obsession with the ABA, the AICPA, and the various state regulatory societies. I'm required by professional standards to attend over 60 hours annually of continuing education, including required courses in professional ethics, diversity and inclusion, technological proficiency and skills, and mental health and wellness. 60 hours, that's more than a semester. But sometimes bad laws encourage unethical behavior. The relaxation of mortgage standards during the late 1990s and early 2000s led to more widespread homeownership as intended, but it also led to the development of the Nina loan. Borrowers with no income and no assets who could pick their own payments, borrow 100% of the cost of a home, and defaulted in record numbers in the 2008 crash. Now, which professions are perceived as the most ethical? This is a chart that's in your book, and it's based on a 2014 survey, and it has doctors and judges at the top, and police officers, so-called public servants, about 36% ethical, journalists 33% ethical, business CEOs 22% ethical. So only 2 out of 9 respondents in the survey thought that business CEOs were most ethical. And then you get down to the bottom of the list and you've got politicians and lobbyists down at 10% or below. You question whether these numbers that are in the book would hold up after the Kavanaugh hearings and the George Floyd killing. Vagueness in the law is the next topic. We're getting toward the end of Chapter 1 here, and a law can be held to be unconstitutional as void for vagueness. Yet anyone who's ever asked a lawyer for an opinion about what a law really means usually gets the two-handed answer. On the one hand this, and on the other hand that. It depends is a pretty common response if you ask a lawyer a question about what the law means. Some people think bend the law, but don't break it. That's what we hear in tax law often, even when we're not working for the mob. And if you remember the scene in The Firm between Gene Hackman as the senior partner and Tom Cruise as the young associate, that was the discussion that they had early in the movie. How far can I bend the law? Well, bend it, but don't break it. I don't mind having an audit. I just don't want to lose it. So that sometimes can be the standard when you have a law that's a little fuzzy to understand. And it leads to gamesmanship and perhaps people taking ethical risks or being outright corrupt as they were in The Firm. But that's another story. That's a work of fiction. Enron and generally accepted accounting principles. Enron followed GAAP. Enron's practices with their special purpose entities, they were following the requirements of generally accepted accounting principles. They had a 3% equity contribution from outsiders into those special purpose entities, even though 97% of their capitalization came as a loan from Enron. They relied on the advice of their CPAs, Arthur Andersen and Company, which, if you probably can't remember back that far, that was many, many years ago, but that was considered the biggest and best accounting firm in the world at the time. GAAP permitted non-consolidation of affiliates with at least 3% equity contributions, even if they were from affiliates or related parties. And Enron set up lots of special purpose entities for risky and speculative ventures, typically with that 97% loan, 3% equity contributed by executives or other folks close to the company. And this kept the debts and losses of the special purpose entities out of Enron's consolidated financial statements. So the first time they did this, no problem. And maybe, several times they did it and it paid off and they made a lot of money. And the executives or the other related parties who were involved, were very successful and very happy about the structure. But after a while, they started to lose, and they were able to conceal it off their financial statements. And after scores of losing special purpose entities, the truth finally came out and the whole deal collapsed. Ethics is defined on page 19 of your text. Ethics refers to how human beings should properly live their lives, an academic discipline, but it's also a way to study business behavior. It involves values, norms, beliefs, and expectations. And again, you can see this in the PowerPoint presentation that I've put into your materials. This goes along with that PowerPoint presentation. But ethics provides standards for individual behavior and also standards for living in communities with others. And that can be standards for a group activity, such as a business. Uh, Note that there's a distinction between normative ethics, which are standards of appropriate behavior, and descriptive ethics, which are standards of actual behavior. So if you're not walking the walk, just talking the talk, there might be a difference between those two, um, how you're doing on those two different scales. Personal integrity versus social responsibility. How should we live? It seeks to answer that question. And I think about the Robert De Niro character in Taxi Driver. Are you talking to me? Or are you talking to us? I'll just take a little deviation or derivation off of that. Morality deals with personal integrity for us as individuals. Social ethics, social responsibility, talks about how we should live with others. Note also the concept of norms, which is defined in your book as standards or guidelines that establish appropriate and proper behavior. Perspectives can include economics, etiquette, ethics, or even taste. Uh, oh, it's just gauche to wear white after Labor Day. That's a norm. But it's not a very important one, perhaps. Values are beliefs that incline us to choose to act one way or another. Uh, Financial values, religious values, legal, historical, nutritional, scientific, political, or aesthetic. All are types of value standards. Ethical values serve the ends of human well being in impartial rather than personal or selfish ways. Happiness, respect, dignity, integrity, freedom, companionship, health. Uh, these are the values and outcomes, and they're all promoted by ethical values. Also, note the distinction between practical reasoning and theoretical reasoning. Winds up the chapter. Practical reasoning is reasoning about what we should do. Theoretical reasoning is reasoning about how we should behave. If you'd like to, you can think of it as how to behave versus how to believe. And of course, that's up to you. Okay, that wraps it up for chapter one. Sorry it took me 3 times to get it recorded. Let's go on to the next one and have a great day. Bye bye.